Thank you. I'm happy to be back here with a film and more films to come. I would like to thank the projectionists. They are always invisible and they do the real job here. And, it happened at the world premiere in 3D at the Toronto Film Festival in a very large theater. They were not prepared to do 3D, and after 8 minutes the film somehow flickered away, and then there was nothing. And then a long time nothing, and lights went up, and I had no clue what had happened, so I stepped up and I said, if the projection doesn't come back, I can tell you what's going to happen. So it did, after 20 minutes or so, actually the projection resumed. This is the second time I've seen it in 3D in my life. It was never planned to do it in 3D. I had seen photos of the cave paintings. They looked like 2D on rough surfaces. But when I was allowed to enter the cave for the first time before shooting together with my wife, I immediately noticed there were these wild, undulating rocks and pendants and niches. And it was immediately clear this had to be in three dimensions, because the artists would utilize, let's say, a bulging rock for the bulging neck of a bison that is charging you, and you have to experience it like that. The film, in a way, dates back to my own spiritual awakening. I hate to use this word, but when I was 12 or 13 and I had moved to Munich, I walked by a bookstore, and I had walked by and something stopped me. And I walked back because I had seen something. And there was a book on cave paintings with a horse from the cave of Lascaux, which is only 14,000 years or so back in time. And I had never seen anything like this, and my heart stopped. And I wanted to buy the book, and I immediately started to work as a ball boy in tennis courts and odd jobs. And each week I would secretly look at the window if the book was still there. I was afraid somebody else would buy it and I would not get it. So after about 8 weeks, I had the money together and I bought it. And the shudder that went through me when I saw these images is still somehow in me. So in that actually was one element to convince the French to let German or Bavarian make this film, because the French are very, very territorial when it comes to la patrimony. All the scientists are exclusively French, and there was a lot of competition to do the film, and I knew the others were as competent as I was, but they hadn't had such a deep experience that I had. And there's something strange at the end when the film is over. There's a postscript. When I was done shooting, everything was packed, wrapped up in 2 vans, and we stopped 20 miles away because I was fascinated by a nuclear plant, and a mile away was a biosphere, some big halls with the warm water of the coolants heated a biosphere which was full of crocodiles. There were 400 huge crocodiles. And I was just curious, and I walked in, and right at the entrance there's a small aquarium with 2 albino crocodiles. And I immediately said, shooting continues. I had no idea. It was so phenomenal, and I wanted to film the refractions staying at the line of the water level, so that you see the refractions of the bodies and how it's very, very, so strange and so crazy. And I called the producer and said, I just filmed it, I will include this. I filmed mutant albino radioactive crocodiles, and I will be in the film. And the producer said, you did what? But it's in the film now, and everyone who sees the film will enjoy it so far. And I'm very proud because it's some of the best, wildest stuff I ever a shot. I want to take you along into the world of poetry and imagination. And of course it has to do with perspective. How do we see paintings that were done 32,000 years ago? How will future generations, or even crocodiles who make it to the cave? And my speculation was actually overtaken by reality. A year later, 6 crocodiles, big ones, escaped from the compound. 5 were captured and taken back. 1 is still at large. It may have made it to the cave. But now you have the privilege to see it with your eyes, with your perspective, and I welcome you to the screen. Thank you. It's as if I had made it yesterday. I am really impressed and proud. And it's one of the things that fell into my lap. Well, of course, I did a lot to do this, but it feels like something like a gift of God had fallen into my lap. Or like the impoverished girl, barefoot, walks out into the snow and there's the sky and the stars, and she opens her apron and the stars, the golden stars are falling in her apron. Every shot is like that. And I, today for the first time I noticed, I was the one who did the light. Almost all of the light was done with this 1 or 2 panels, and how I move them slowly and create, let's say, the recess, and all of a sudden the light starts wandering in and reveals something. So it was done right in conjunction with the camera. I always had my eyes, what was the camera doing and what could I reveal now, and how could I obscure it again and make it come back again. So that was something I had completely forgotten.
But as soon as did you feel you had enough time? I mean, you could play with so many different angles.
Well, you have to cope with what's thrown at you. We had 1 week of shooting 4 hours per day. And on one day, I remember we lost quite a bit because descending into the cave is very narrow, and of course we would test our equipment, like checking pilots, their equipment, and checking every detail of the mechanics of the airplane. And it was all fine. We arrived down there, and somehow the battery of the whole system that recorded the data was broken, and it had a very strange voltage. And we were allowed only once entering and once exiting, so that they wouldn't have to open the door all the time. And it was a strict rule. We were all men, and I would tell them, and the cinematographer always was drifting around, and I said to him, "Peter, have you taken your leak yet?" So he was, "Oh no, I should do it quickly." So I disappeared in the forest. So because if there's an emergency, yes, you can open the door again, but you're not allowed to do it yet once more. And so with the broken essential equipment of a battery, and we only were allowed to carry whatever we could carry on our body without becoming bulky. And so we decided, what do? We have no backup from outside. And 3 guys, Peter Zeitlinger, Erik Söllner and Kaspar Kallas, some great Austrians in Kallas from Estonia. They started to roll up their sleeves on a very narrow, on this walkway, and dismantled some battery belts, and they constructed it. We only had a Swiss Army knife and we had one screwdriver. And within a little more than 1 hour, they managed to create a completely new battery for this. And then we started filming. So of the 4 hours, we lost a little bit more than 1 hour by this coincidence. And of course, we were rushed. You could never step off the walkway. I would have loved to see the footprint of the boy and the wolf's footprint next to these footprints. But of course, for that we have to step out into the dust, and you cannot do that. So the restrictions made me just speak about it instead of showing it. I have no evidence. I have to rely on what the scientists told me.
Do you find?
Well, there are no feelings. There's no relief, there's no pressure. You just have to be professional. That's it. Do your job. Do it fast. Do it right. You have only one chance. And if you miss that, you have to move on because the cave is hundreds of meters deep into the mountain. So you just perform. There's absolutely nothing else. Only sometimes when we were done filming, I would train a little bit behind the other guys, and they left and I was alone, and all of a sudden I found myself completely alone in the cave, and I had a light and I would look around, and those were my moments. But there were only a minute, 2 minutes maximum. No, I do not dream. But my question was good. because he said he was dreaming of lions. Now, it dawned on me, did he dream of paintings of lions, or did he dream of real lions? And was there any fear? And so all of a sudden the answer becomes very interesting. And it becomes interesting because I had the quickness, the alertness of mind to ask the right thing that came to me. You see, there are certain things you cannot learn. You cannot learn it in film schools. You have to have it in you or finding out that he was a circus artist, or finding out how he explains about an Aborigine who tells the anthropologist, no, it's not me who is painting, retouching the painting, it's the hand of the spirit. And so you have to elicit certain things that you sense around, and for him he doesn't need to say, because he has studied it and he has stored it, but you have to tickle the man.
So we're in your introduction, but I understand you have to get pretty creative with how it's done.
Yeah, we had to, there was no professional camera in 3D that was that small, so that you can carry it on your hand. They're very bulky things. And our Estonian man, Kaspar Kallas, was wonderful in creating this. It was 2 cameras size of 2 matchboxes, basically. And the system of recording the data was also him. He actually developed the software for, much of the software for the film by, what's his name, Cameron, I think, Avatar. Much of what Avatar achieved is based on some breakthrough software that Kaspar Kallas created. And he's a filmmaker himself. And I like to work with this kind of people who could even replace me. If I faint outside the cave, I know he would take over from me. Exactly, he would take over from me. All right, can we start with that's a problem, because I do not dream at night. I don't have dreams. And quite often I feel when I wake up in the morning, there's a deficit. I have not dreamt again. Very rarely I do dream, but maybe once or twice a year. And then sometimes very vividly of utmost banalities. And then I had a sandwich for lunch. So that's not a big thing. And it may be that the absence of dreaming makes me into a filmmaker, because I try to fill a void. I try to compensate a deep deficit that's inside of me. However, I do daydreaming, and in particular when I'm traveling on foot. I go through novels, I go through good, perfect soccer games as a player, by the way. And so I'm not completely a foreigner to dreams, but they do interest me, but not in the way the shrinks would do it. I think there's something profoundly wrong to start analyzing and scrutinizing and dissecting and vivisecting our dreams. There's something not right, and it hasn't done good to anyone.
The final sequence, that long montage.
Yeah, you mean with the albino crocodiles?
Oh, no. So the cave paintings, right.
Of the cave
that
paintings.
montage, yes.
A long montage at the end with music.
Yes.
Well, we knew we would be most of it would be repetitive, but it was extremely slow, and we would it all do from a tripod, and we would take any time necessary, to move slowly that you can absorb it, and we create music that elevates you. The music elevates you, lifts you up to the level of that, and all of a sudden you have no problem whatsoever to somehow span over this chasm of time of 35,000 years. I try to make it in this way, I try to make it easy for you. Just live with it, breathe with it, look at it, and I give you time enough. So.
Your subject during the edit?
Well, we are always laughing with the guy and with the scientist who tries to throw the spear. He actually doesn't do it so badly. It's not as good as Cro-Magnon man. And no, I never make any fun at the cost of an individual. And my aim always has been I do not want to hear a dry communique by a scientist. I want to see a human being. Give them space, let them explain. And it's quite wonderful how they, all of a sudden, every single one of them is a real interesting, fascinating human being, not only scientists. And that was always, not only in this film, it's in many other films that I've always been on the side of the experts. Okay. Well, it's a very deep question, and I can't really answer it. Some of them seem to come close to it. It appears, I have a suspicion, and of course I made my very last film, which hasn't been shown yet, Theatre of Thought. It's very much about the brain, but not only human brain, also animals. What do they actually see? And sometimes animals, like human beings, prefer completely artificial imagery. Young people who are hours and hours and hours in video games, and there are dragons coming at them, and you have to shoot them down. Utterly artificial, remote from everything human. And yet, young people get literally addicted, that they have to enter in clinics, in rehab. And apparently, sometimes mice, I filmed tests with mice, who seem to prefer a completely artificial environment that has been projected for them. It's very, very strange. And there is sentient It's a question I cannot answer. I only have suspicions, and probably for this giving an answer, it would take 2 days sitting together and having some real experts around.
I understand. I look forward to that film.
Work in the current world.
I don't know, that's what I do, that's my profession. And what is good, that recently with 2 books that I just finished, in the first one, what is it called, The Twilight World. No, there's another one, Every Man for Himself and God Against All. And all of a sudden, and I welcome this, people out there discover that I'm a writer as well. And since decades, since more than 40 years since I published Of Walking in Ice, and since I published Conquest of the Useless, I keep speaking to deaf ears. Look at what I'm writing. I do believe that my writing will probably outlive my films. That's maybe the legacy of that, maybe much longer living. I don't know, I've made a lot of mistakes in predicting, so I like the fact that all of a sudden my audience discovers my writing. And I'm very, very glad about this. And this is also one of the reasons I want to thank the theater here and the whole organization, because the book, The Twilight World, was just released a good week ago. And I do some book signings. And I have the theater here free for an hour or half an hour to sign books. And I do it with great pride. And I do it thankful for giving me the space. Well, spirituality is a term I will only touch with a pair of pliers. Because it has been occupied by the crétins of New Age quasi-philosophical babble, which I loathe. And so I'm waiting for a but when you are sitting through the film, and you have the information in the last sequence where you just see the image and the music, there is something coming across that's not only hitting me, I'm sure it hit you as well. And that's why you probably come up with this question. It's self-evident. It does not need to be analyzed. It doesn't need to be explained. It's exactly right there. And people 35,000 years ago did that for us. They left us a time capsule. So that's all I can say.
And I have to confess, I asked this somewhat selfishly as someone who works in 3D video.
No, I would never do a film differently after I've done it. You have to live with your own mistakes. Weaknesses, just leave it behind. And there's a certain charm that some of it here and there or there is not completely accomplished. You see, I don't want to make this kind of slick kind of movies that look like commercials. I'm not into that business, and I've never had any problem that films that I made 50 years ago, 12 years ago, 2 years ago, still have mistakes in it. Yes, I learn from mistakes, that's all there is. And I'm still learning. As strange as it may sound. There's an explanation which I have to explain to other films, also feature films. I shoot very little. For this film, I had maybe 12 hours of footage, 10, 11, 12 hours maximum. That was it. So, and I view it together with an editor. There should be 2 sets of eyes, 2 different characters watching it, and I write in longhand. I write logbooks. I call them logbooks, and I make exclamation marks, sometimes 2, very rarely 3 exclamation marks. And And I know if this moment is not in the film, I have lived in vain. So, and I, with the editor, I say, let's go, where's the real footage? And the real best of the best always fits together. And in feature films, I don't care about continuity. The best of the best footage always fits together. And I've never shot much footage in my entire life. Beginning with the first films, I shot in 35mm celluloid. Every second that is rattling through the camera, you know costs you $5. Rostock, development in the laboratory, and editing slow and whatever. So shoot very little. I have learned it the hard way, the right way. And I see young people who are into the digital world, and I see they keep the camera rolling, and they believe and they think wrongly that somehow the camera will record some exceptional moment. No, it does not. The garbage will remain garbage. And then later they are stuck with 850 hours of footage. And when I hear that, my heart sinks, because I know this young man or this young woman who made the film doesn't know what she's doing and what her vision is. So, and the craziest of all examples is my last feature film, which I shot in Japan, called Family Romance. It's with actors, and I did it lowest low key, myself doing the camera, and only literally no crew. And I shot for a 1.5 hour film, a 1.5 hour feature film, acted scenes. And the main character is an 11-year-old girl who has never been in front of a camera. I shot this film and I ended up with 320 minutes of footage. Minutes, not 320 hours or 3,200 hours. What I shot for the entire film in Hollywood, a professional crew that have 5 cameras rolling, shoot for doing half a scene that lasts 5 minutes or so. That's and my advice is to young filmmakers: shoot and know what you are doing. You have to have a clear idea, because the gems never materialize. You have to create them. You have to aim. You have to sniff them out. You have to force them out of the mud.
Thank you. Moments really being your work.
Well, you're talking about a subject that I have pondered a lot, and it would take a very long time to really come to terms and try to explain it. But I've tried to make clear I do invent sometimes in feature films, because only through invention and stylizations I come to a deeper truth. A deeper stratum of truth, what I call an ecstasy of truth. And it is important to make it clear, yes, I do that, but I do it because I do not want to lie to you. I want to induce you to a deeper level of understanding, of an illumination of something. And my simplest of all examples would be, to make it obvious what I mean, Michelangelo's sculpture of the Pietà. The face of Jesus taken from the cross is the tormented face of a 33-year-old man. You see that clearly. And you look into the face of his mother, and his mother is only 15. So, now comes the question. Is this fake news? Did Michelangelo try to cheat us, lie to us? Mislead us? No, of course he did not. He gives us an access. He illuminates the two characters, the two figures, and shows us their innermost nature. So that's what I'm trying to do, and it's completely different what fake news is doing. And but it is a very deep question that has accompanied me throughout my life as a filmmaker.
Thank you.
In Encounters at the End of the World,
Yeah.
what happened to the penguin? Did he keep walking?
To the penguin, I don't know. The penguin just walked across the entire bay, 70 kilometers, then entered mainland, Antarctica, and it is 5,000 kilometers. It's about the size of mainland United States, and very high mountains. And the penguin just walked into the mountains. And you could not, even if you captured the penguin and brought him back to his colony, he probably would have instantly walked on and did it again. We do not know had he had enough of his colony or whatever. My question to the biologist came, is there such a thing like insanity among animals? Can they be deranged? Yes, the penguin was deranged. And of course, there's a very clear rules of engagement. When you encounter a penguin or whatever, a seal, you just stand still, be unobtrusive, let the creature do what it is doing. You do not interfere. And if, let's say, a killer whale eats up cruelly a big walrus or so, you do not interfere because you love the walrus. It's let it happen. You have to allow it to happen. So what happened to the penguin, I don't know, but it certainly died.
Your life and work.
Which philosopher has influenced you the most?
Oh, I'm bad at reading philosophy. It's too abstract for me. And quite often in this disease that is creeping up to movies now, it has crept up to poetry in decades before, to analyze and to scrutinize what kind of ideas and philosophical concepts were behind this or that and the other. It's awful, and you see that universities and film schools, they do the so-called film studies or film theory, and they are attempting seriously to suffocate the poetry of cinema, but they will not prevail. I do read a lot. I do not watch much movies. I read a lot, but hardly ever philosophy. It's a tough thing for me. Okay.
Thank you.
Well, I feel encouraged. Yes, those people were very wonderful painters, and they apparently hint at stories. And I feel at home. Yes, I'm rooted deep in prehistory. Tens of thousands of years back in time, and that's the great thing in cinema. You may create whatever effects that you can, special effects, or this or that, or digital camera, 8K or 28K, I don't care. I look after, is there any good story that touches me? And that's exactly, and it will, if you come up with a great story, you will find the money. The money will follow you like the common cur in the street with its tail between its legs. But you really need a strong story. And it's always the key. And I think one of the Warner brothers, one of them, I think said there are three important things in cinema, and they're gonna stay that way. It's story, story, and story. So best of luck for your films. With Ernst Reisiger.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm always there when music is being recorded. I showed him early on some photos that I came across. That was my first knowledge. But then the moment we had footage, I would show it to him in 2D. in fairly low resolution and was constantly in contact, and in particular when they were recording. When they were recording, and there's something interesting, the last music with a single voices, it begins with a flute, and it's a South African flute that ghetto kids play, made of a metal pipe for water or sewage or whatever, and they make themselves. And there was a wonderful musician from South Africa, but he would play wildly, like completely going into atonality and wild dissonances of very modern music, and he kept on playing that, and I stopped him, and I said, no, start it wild, go wild, find, but from a certain moment on it, I will stand next to you, which I did. You have to find the tune, you have to find the melody, and you have to find the melody of those 8 voices that are chiming in them. And he started playing and never would stop with his crazy stuff, and I just stopped the recording, and I said, you didn't do, you do not find the melody, find it. So, and finally he found it, and I gestured, you other people, a wonderful choir, start singing now, and Herzog plays the cello. I always take his shoes off. He's only allowed to record when he's barefoot. Why, I don't know, but I think he's better when he's barefoot. He knows this is for real now. And he's a wonderful, wonderful man and composer and performer. And in quite a few films he's the key. And I have 2 films where he plays music. One is called the Theater of Thought. His music is in there, part of it, and then a requiem, a musical requiem, and it has the title The Fire Within. But I'm using classical music requiems, Fauré's Requiem, Verdi's Requiem, and then Herzog together with Sardinian musicians, singers. So it's really good, and I have a deep conversational and artistic relationship with him.
Yes.
And as you see how much value this all is, and without the music, you do not sense the sublime. There's something transcendental.
Yes.
And when you make films, and I have to say that to the young filmmaker who was just before you, look into music, make yourself acquainted, because it can do so much to cinema.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.